why these randoms keep getting jobs. Don't worry about it. I'ma say, I can't wait to say it. I love it. I love it. Go.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the NotBland Show. I am your host, WinterNationals, and of course, you know who we're powered by, SportsJourney.com and Everything Nitro. Happy Tuesday, everybody. What a weekend it was. Soggy, Haley in Pomona, and we'll get to it. We're going to have Kelley Murphy, who gave and had his pro stock debut at the Gatornationals. We'll talk to him about it and talk to him about his duties outside of the cockpit. And we'll ask him and see when this next time he'll be able to come out and bring the car back out and redeem or get a little get back, I should say, on his teammate, Erica Enders. Yeah, she tattooed him. I don't know why she had to do him like that, but yeah, that was not cool. Racing is racing, though, right? Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Smith's Racing Channel. It's my guy, Briar Starr. What's going on, man? Thanks for tuning in. And yep, he should be on about 7:15, 7:20. So we'll have him there. WinterNationals was pretty interesting, right? They had to dodge a lot of weather. The Friday night qualifying session, to say the least, was trash. Let's just call it how we see it. It was trash. And you'll be surprised that they decided to leave the old rubber on from November and not dress the track up. Well, as we saw, that did not hold at all, and was a very bad Friday night session. And I'm sure some of you probably thought about that as well, because a lot of you guys are smart fans of this sport. And, you know, I don't know why they wouldn't have completely started fresh instead of doing that. It really didn't vote well for the fans who really turned out in droves. It was a great turnout for Pomona. I think probably another notch up from the finals from last year, as Californians are starting to roll again. And that's the performance they get Friday and Saturday. As you saw on Sunday, though, the track was a lot better because they were able to scrape that track and prepare it the way they should have on Friday. And you saw the numbers that we saw on Sunday. Very good numbers, a lot of good upsets, though, and I'm okay with that. It's not good for your drag racing or your drag race bracket bonanza deal, but it made for good action. By the way, I'll throw this in here. So Drag Race Bracket Bonanza put out a post. If you weren't able to see that on Twitter or haven't seen that on Twitter, the WinterNational Finals will conclude during the third round of qualifying on Saturday, April 6th. Everyone's picks will remain locked, and this will not disrupt your ability to make Arizona Nats picks when qualifying ends Saturday evening. So just a heads up, that will be happening. That's what they're going to do. And that reminded me to put the ticker up. We have our code for our league. You're welcome to join. It's not too late. You're only 2 races in the season. And to be honest with you, if you probably got 4 races into the season, you're probably not bad off, because most of us felt like a rock, even though I did pick some of the upsets that we saw, but most of us fell like a rock and hit rock bottom. I wasn't completely at rock bottom, but it wasn't pretty. Drag Race Mayhem says Pomona was crazy. It was. I mean, just weather, the track deal, it's weird. Oh, that's who it is. That's okay. So this is my cousin, ladies and gentlemen. He is tuning in. He gets the opportunity. He helps his friend on their race team. So pretty cool. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, Nicole. It really doesn't. You want the best surface for the racers. And, it was kind of odd when if a couple guys miss it, okay, but when you got renowned tuners and the czar of the playbook missing twice, something just don't add up, just doesn't pass the smell test, as they say. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could have happened. Wrecking equipment, it just, I just feel bad for the fans. I'm just a media guy. I'm just a guy that watches, analyzes, breaks down. But when you pay money to come out and see a product and it turns out to look like that, it reminded me of Gainesville, like in the early 2000s when it was extremely hot and it'd be about 80, 90 degrees outside and that track was cooking. And usually on that Saturday qualifying session during the day, all you saw was wisp and smoke. They got out to about 60 feet to 330 and that was about it. So yeah, it's just not what you want to do. Briar says, if I remember correctly, last year Pomona in the spring was the same thing. I believe so. I don't have, somebody else can kind of chime in and kind of help me with that, but I believe so. Yes, in terms of qualifying. Yeah, you have to love the funny car bracket busters were absolutely insane. Some of them I saw coming, and my guy Lenny told me not to touch my bracket, and I went in and I touched my bracket. I'm a guy who overthinks. I'm a stat guy. I take everything into consideration. Sometimes that's to my fault. And I went in there. I had Paul Lee winning before, and I went in and changed it. I had a feeling. Something in my gut told me that maybe Bob Tasker would turn it around, and I should have went with what I thought. And that's the cars that make the horsepower were the ones that were going to kind of slip up and be taken by the guys who don't necessarily make the horsepower on the front end, that 60 foot to 330, and they were going to just motor on down the track, run a decent number, and go on and put themselves in position to win. And they did that. And that's not saying Paul Lee tiptoes, okay? But they run a little bit smarter, and they did. They got themselves a round win on that one. Yeah, I copied and pasted too, and that was a big mistake. Even though in a lot of the leagues that I'm in, I'm still at the top. So, other people were worse than I was. Briar says I had a perfect top fuel bracket until I had Tony over Steve. Just thought Tony would have done better this week compared to last week. He had a tough outing. This ain't easy. Don't get me wrong. He's one bad man, but at the end of the day, there are other bad men and women out there in that class, and he does have a really good car. And we know what type of driver he is, but at the end of the day, they're going to make things happen when they happen, and it's going to be a tough go. This ain't going to be easy for him to go up and get a Wally in this one. He's gonna when he does win, he will have earned it. And he had another side of the ladder that was just simply tough for him to get through. And if he had we might have seen him at least in the semifinal or final round. No, it wasn't about the rubber not sticking to the concrete. It's just the rubber was old. It was from last November. So basically they went out there, kind of dressed it up a little bit, cleaned it up, dressed it up, dragged it, and hope and a prayer and hope that it stuck, and then was stubborn and decided to do this exact same thing over again, the definition of insanity, and it didn't turn out well on Saturday. Plain and simple. I praise you when you do good, and you get criticism when you don't. And that was not a smart move at all. And then the fans paid for that. And that's where I don't like it, especially with the crowd that they had. Sunday was a lot better show for sure. My funny car bracket is perfect. I picked both finalists. Man, that's pretty good, because it was a tough weekend to get to this far and have both of your people still in the game. That's going to be interesting. What I'd like to know, though, is who did you pick to win? That's what I want to know. March Madness bracket is doing better. Actually, my March Madness bracket isn't too bad. When Houston went down, that was an issue for me because I had them in the Final Four. But for the most part, I'm about 60%, 67% right here. So it's a lot better than it was last year. I think by the first round, I was dead in the water. It was not even worth looking at. It was absolutely utter trash. Take it out back, throw gas on it, and light a match. That's how good it was. It was terrible. Never betting against Steve ever again. This is my thing, and it applies to Erica Enders. It can apply to Steve or Brittany, or I will throw in also a guy I've been saying to watch, Sean Langdon. You pick them until they show you that you shouldn't. Gatornationals right there. You pick them to win until they show you that they didn't. And I got a bone to pick, and I'm going to say that right here. You had one job, Austin Prock. One job. And you blew it. And that hurt. I picked him to win. And that just, wouldn't never saw that coming. I don't know. Track conditions, that car makes a lot of horsepower. I'm just playing, but yeah, I'm playing, but not playing a little bit. That hurt. It was crazy. The whole thing was crazy, but I in a way, I love crazy. It gives another look, and it gives another feel when you have people like Terry Haddock going rounds. It'll be nice when we can see Dave Richards actually make a full pass. I will say that. There's a lot of guys out here doing it with less. It's gotta break through somehow. I really think they're having problems, as they say, in the bell housing. And the bell housing means the clutch area. I really do. Has to be. Dave says the sad part is the fans always pay for it. When it was 100 degrees in Joliet and one nitro car made a pass in session two, in 2 sessions, we paid. When NHRA decided to change the track prep mixture, we paid. When it rains, we pay. And it's true. And this weekend was just a disaster for rain and weather. How about that hail that they had? It almost looked like it was snowing. I love Tasca, but hurt my funny car bracket last 2 weeks. Yeah, man. Like, come on. You had a really nice start to the season here. I need you to find that mojo again. All right. I really do. You're killing me, bro. Yeah. I mean, it just bothers me. All of this is avoidable if you just did what you're supposed to do. I don't think you should ever go to a track and just assume. Just prep it the way you want to and make sure that it's good. That's what you want. Last thing you want to do is be playing catch up and chasing your tail all weekend. It's just not good. So it just makes a busier Arizona Nationals week much more busy. New England Nats repeat from last year. I agree. It is going to be very, very busy. You're going to have the finals for Pomona in the third round of qualifying. I'm trying to figure out how this too fast, too tasty thing is going to work now. How do you run that back? And when do you run that back? Because you're going to have a makeup if you're just going to say, we're not going to worry about the too fast, too tasty for Pomona, and we're just going to pick up from Arizona. Okay, no problem. I can see that, but I feel sorry for the people who actually made it to the semifinal round and final round to have the opportunity to run it back. I don't know how that works, because now you really gum up the works. It'll be a busy qualifying session in Charlotte to have to do that in. What my theory is, though, what I think they're going to do is they're probably just going to scrap it. That's an assumption. I don't know that for sure. I'm making a prediction here, and that's what I think. They'll probably scratch it. Drag Racing Mayhem says, I wonder how he got the sponsorship when Haddock already had a well-oiled program. Why didn't the money go to him? I'm going to give you the Jordan. I don't know, but it doesn't look good from the start. And like I said, I really do think it has a lot to do with the clutch application and then taking that application and being able to apply it to the track. They're having some major issues with that. It's clear because the thing doesn't even get off the starting line most of the time. Or at least goes to about 60 feet or a little past that and then nothing. So I really think that that's the issue. And sometimes when you get behind, you're chasing your tail, and it's hard to play catch up when you're behind and not able to really catch up and, find the gremlins, get it fixed, and then be able to apply it. And in 3 qualifying sessions, you get behind, it's over. It's over. There's nothing you can do if you miss on the first session. And the big thing with 3 sessions is if you miss on the hero session on Friday, it's over. You're just done. And you're playing catch up because now conditions on Saturday likely aren't going to marry up to what you saw Friday night. And then you're not going to have a late enough run on Saturday for it to really be a hero session. So playing catch up isn't good. And you get behind the 8 ball and it's over. Nicole says, I think because Skag owns the team, I don't see Terry wanting to share ownership of his team. I don't either. That's a good point. I don't see that either. Not at all. He says, I know we are talking about racing, but rip to the people who died in the bridge accident. Yeah, that's a tough, it's 99 times that's likely never going to happen. And that was your 1%. It's the most weird thing ever for in that spot, in that area, for a ship to lose power and then just be guided by the currents and then be pushed into a bridge pillar is just it's the most weird thing ever. But again, likely would never happen 99 times, but that was the 1%, unfortunately. Breyer says, plus side is at least they didn't wait all night to postpone it. I agree. I will give them their props on that because we all know Pomona has a lot of restrictions and there's a lot of there's noise ordinances that they have to follow. So I was very glad that they made the call immediately when it looked like it was just going to take too long to clean the track, dry it, prep it to run the finals. And you're up against it. And they have been up against it all weekend. And the teams really deserve a lot of credit for being able to get those cars turned around, especially during eliminations. I know that they were trying to push as quickly as they could to get those cars back around to be able to run so they could get all of that in. So I know teams were up against it, probably a little bit shorter turnaround that they were dealing with. And kudos to those teams. They went out there, performed. And, to only have a few little incidences with Clay having a weird weekend, popping the supercharger. And I give big kudos to Jimmo for noticing the issue, not going out here and putting a car on the track and potentially causing catastrophic damage again and likely oiling the track down. They decided to pull it and just live to fight another day. It takes a big guy to do that, and it takes swallowing pride a little bit and just understanding the situation at hand. And they did that, and they'll be fine next week. A lot of wacky things went on this weekend, and that just so happened to be one of them. But big shout out to them for noticing that and not putting the car out there and potentially oiling the racetrack down and providing another delay. Would have been like midnight here. Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of these things on the East Coast, it gets late, man. It gets late. Drag Racing Mayhem says to all the people whining, it wasn't run in Pomona. Why would they spend all the money for an extra day to run one round? I agree. And again, there's still other, I'm sure there's some kind of rules and regulations and ordinances that they have to follow. And it's just too much of a headache. Scott says, I thought the safety safari did a great job. Both lanes were good. They worked their earths off. They did. I just say they did a bad job Friday and Saturday night. The decision to use last year's rubber on the track was not a good one. Sunday, they provided an excellent track like they did in Gainesville. They provided a very good track on Sunday. Friday and Saturday, though, Nicole says, and the fact that Jimmo was honest in the interview and not BS or spin, I agree. You know what I mean? Shoot me straight. We all know there's a problem. Don't give us subliminal messages. And he just came right out with it. And, like I said, huge shout out to them. Sometimes the WinterNationals didn't finish until Tuesday. Yeah. Like I said, very tough for a fan base that, came out in droves, and we haven't seen this in a while. So, it was tough to watch. Now, I see a lot of cars, man, that are stepping up and making some really good runs. And in pro stock, man, how about those Quadra boys? David Quadra is out here slaying folks. And he looks very consistent. Dallas Glenn looks like he's back on his game, being able to make some really nice runs. The car looked good, when they had a good track. I still think Sean Langdon is the front runner in all of this as far as top fuel goes. And I know what we're seeing here. I think that's a bit of an anomaly of what we saw in the WinterNationals, given the circumstances. Brittany seemed to find a level of consistency this weekend. Justin seemed to find his footing as well. But to me, it's Langdon and it's the Torrances, and then it's everybody else. Doug is back on the case of the yips again in the second round. I'm going to discredit and just completely scratch out Pomona, though. Everybody had something major to deal with. It didn't turn out good because of the circumstances. So I'm going to give him a pass, him and Allen a pass. But it's looking like what they had early in the season with the case of the yips in the second round. That phantom tire smoke that seems to come out of nowhere when they've been running so well in qualifying and in the first round. So we'll see what happens here in the next 2 races? Is this just just something that happens to be going on and they'll get past it, or is this a habit? Is this something that they're going to be dealing with once again, a gremlin that it seems to be starting to rear its head again? Again, regular season, you want to just be in position to strike, and that's all they have to do. But you don't want to have this thing going on again, because then it starts to creep back. You start thinking about it, and it becomes a thing. Scott says Pro Stock is off the charts. It is. It really is. And I know people have a lot to say about the two. It's only 2 brands and all of that. But let's give them credit for doing what they're doing for Pro Stock. Elite and that team and KB Titan, they're doing an excellent job of being able to field 16 cars that all 16 have an ability to win. Obviously, you had a couple extra people here as well. You talk about the Matt Hartfords. I think Kenny Delco was a part of that as well. There's a lot of good cars out here, and it's anybody's day, really. And if you get off to a slow start, if your tune-up's a little off, you're going to get got. If you don't focus on the starting line and you come up there and you're lazy or you're asleep or comatose, you're going home. You're going on the trailer. It's just that simple. The cars are just that close. And it's some of the closest racing I think we are seeing in quite some time. And last year was pretty good, but man, it seems to be even better than it was last year. And it's Erica's race until somebody says it's not. And I'm going to go on a limb and say she wins another championship. I don't have any fear about saying that at all. I think she wins another championship because nobody has proven to stop her yet. And again, you pick them until they give you reason not to. And there's a good saying that one of the colleagues in NFL who is no longer with us, rest in peace, he would say, don't listen to what the players say, but watch what they do. And it's true. People say a whole bunch of stuff of what they're doing, but look at the actions. Look at what's going on the racetrack. And she doesn't look like she's slowing down at all. That's for darn sure. But she's got a lot of tough customers around her that the numbers are there. It's just a matter of, can you get up more than she does on the starting line? Because it seems like when the going gets tough, she gets going. And she's turning over, 10s, 12s, 20s, reaction times. And then the car is just running flawless. I felt sorry for Kelly Murphy facing her first round in Gainesville. He ran a really nice 655, but it wasn't good enough for that 49. Like I said, why you had to do that, man, like that? Briar says, maybe change the date of the schedule of Pomona. Seems like there's always weather issues. I know a lot of people wanted to be back to the first race of the year. And to me, I'm not really all that big on tradition. And sometimes tradition has to be broken. I also think that it's prove it to me. Show me that you deserve to be back at number 1, because Gainesville is turning out every year. It's packed. Us media guys are having absolute disaster trying to get to the track on time so we don't sit in traffic. I mean, drivers are sitting in traffic. I think there was a picture of at like 6:30 in the morning, there was a traffic jam. So, prove it is what I say. But yeah, could be that. But you know what? We could say the same thing about Gainesville too. It seems like every time in the last 4 to 5 years, you're either dealing with cool weather or you're dealing with rain, or a combination of both. And that's annoying, but it's part of the game. Hey, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Dave says, how about Greg dropping that 09 on Erica? Yeah. I mean, and still couldn't get around her. Still couldn't get around her. I don't know what else you can do. I really thought he was going to beat her to the line. I knew it was going to be close. I knew it was going to be real close, but I really thought he was going to beat her just a little bit, just nip right in the lights, and she drove right around him. So if you're Greg, what else can you do? And like I said, until she proves otherwise, you got to pick her. Yeah. Yes, it was. It was crappy for a lot of people on Saturday. It was real crappy on Friday. I talked about that earlier. That was because they decided not to scrape the track and dress it the way that they normally do. They decided to use the old rubber that was on the track from November to dress that up and call it good. And it just didn't work out Friday and Saturday. And that's why the fans got crap both of those days. Lots of odd occurrences on the track Sunday, throttle cables coming loose. It's 2 races in the season. I liken some of this stuff to, some people come out and they're a well-oiled machine and they don't miss a beat. But if you have a few changes in your crew and maybe you shuffle guys around a little bit, it takes a little bit for these guys to get in sync. They're unlike NFL, MLB, NBA, and the like. They have a preseason. They have training camps to kind of get things in sync, installing different things. And as much as you might be able to simulate race day in the shop, it's a difference being at the track and then dealing with the circumstances that they had to deal with. The weather, being up against it. You have a noise ordinance that you're up against. So you're trying to get this action in, meaning now you're going to have to shorten those turnarounds. Means you have to be precise. And in those short turnarounds, when the pressure's on the line and maybe you're not in, maybe you're too far back in the ladder and you want to be up a little bit further because you don't want to get that bad matchup in first round, the pressure's on. And sometimes pressure busts pipes. And I think some of that is what we saw. Clay, I believe, was chasing some issue. And when you're chasing something like that and you're under time constraints, it makes it difficult. It does. And sometimes you just can't find it. But that's the nature of the beast. That's professional drag racing. And I think as time goes on, we'll start to see some of these things go away. But it's early in the season. And like I said, no preseason. And sometimes this is what you get. Drag Racing Mayhem says, still wondering why Pomona has 2 races, why the track that both races have declined since 2019. Why, when we have all these tracks with passionate fan bases want races, do we run at Pomona twice? I've often said that too, and I think you've heard Monday Morning Racer talk about it as well. I don't believe that the traditional running in this order is something that needs to be done anymore. I think you can mix it up a little bit. Break tradition, make it more interesting. And sometimes the adjustment might even be better for teams as well. I know most teams have 2 locations where they're from. And most people, California, whatever. And then you have Indiana, which is a lot of people's home base there in Indy. So I think there's things you can do to maneuver the schedule and it not have to be in this, rinse and repeat type deal. And then you can also, by doing that, you can take a look at weather. You can take a look at, I'll say you take a look at things that continue to occur. I forget the word for it, but you can see this data and see, okay, well, around this time of year, they do have more rain or this or that. And not saying it has to go that in depth, but some of the tracks where you have these issues of weather, you can kind of make those adjustments in that time frame, and you can do it early in the season. That way, the tracks have time to be able to, block out that time to have that national event during that time, especially if it's not the same time that they would have normally had it during the season. So, yeah, do agree with that on that one there. Lonnie says his drag race bracket bonanza league got more red than it was on the starting line. Yeah, you and me both. You told me not to touch it, and I did. And there's a couple of them that could have been a lot better than they were, and they weren't because I screwed it up. I really did. Yeah, I agree. It's a fun race. I'm looking forward to Arizona though. And I like the fact that it's called Firebird Raceway again. I would love that. Finish it in Vegas. It's a beautiful facility. The weather is always, for the most part, always great there. And what more could you do? What better place could you have it? I think you have less likely of weather events than you would any other place. That'll work. It says Vegas would look weird with a 2 open lane, but would be perfect. Championship race has a glamour that Pomona doesn't. I agree. It's a really nice place there. It's one of the Taj Mahals of drag racing. Bruton Smith does an excellent job with those tracks and the tracks that are out there. Charlotte is one of my favorite. If you haven't been there, especially for the 4 wide, the facility is just second to none. You know what I mean? The track, the drag strip is, to me, treated like the NASCAR oval. I mean, they really just provided you with everything up there. The seating, especially in the reserve side, and I believe, on the reserve side, they have backs on the seats. It's like, you know what I mean? It's super comfortable. It's easy to access. It's easy to access the pits, to get it in and out of the pits, to go in and be able to come from the pits and get back to racing quickly. Facility is just awesome. It's been a couple of years since I've been, and a couple is probably understating it, but I love that place. NHRA Pomona is in a market that other race series are begging to get into, yet do nothing with it. It lacks the glamour of SoCal. Yes, I do. I agree. I think it's lost its luster a little bit. I'm not a stickler on trying to be in one place, doing one thing over and over and over and over again. So, I'm all for change. I'm trying to see where Kelley is and if he's on his way yet. So just give me a few minutes here. I appreciate everybody chiming in with questions and comments. Makes things a lot more fun. It's a little bit different format sometimes, and I like the change up there. But it's going to be good. So looking ahead, so we'll go ahead and do that for a little bit. Looking ahead to the Arizona Nationals, we all know that the conditions here at this track are second to none. And this is a place where people can go fast. The question is, and I'll pose it to you guys, do you guys think this 341 mile an hour pass can happen at Arizona. I thought it could happen at Pomona, and I think it would have. He's about 25 minutes out, so we'll keep going. Thanks for being patient. Yeah, they're about 25 minutes out, so we'll keep it going. But like I said, I thought that pass would have happened in Pomona, and unfortunately, it didn't. Obviously, for various reasons. So we'll see what happens here. I really do think that, given the surface, that car just simply runs fast no matter what. I mean, we saw it in Gainesville. I don't even think they were trying to go 338 miles an hour, but they did. And I think they just do that with ease. And given the conditions being right, and if they're in the show, of course, and in a good favorable spot, I think they'll go after it. I don't think that they would do it during eliminations, though. I don't think they would risk a round win to do that. Drag Race Mayhem says, depending on the altitude, but for Tasca's runs, he tunes for the mile per hour specifically. I doubt they do that, especially with qualifying points on the line. Yeah, like I said, I think they have to be in a favorable position to do so. I don't think they're going to risk having the potential to be number one qualifier, or at least in your top three, to go out and run a mile per hour. I think you'd have to have. I also don't think, if they do it, it's by happenstance, and they're trying to go after it in the hero session. But again, like I always say, when you only got 3 qualifying sessions, if you miss on Friday, it usually doesn't help you on Saturday and Sunday. You need to be somewhere in the ballpark. You've got to make a run on Friday. You got to put something down. So I think more than likely, too, it'll be in a situation where they have 4 qualifying sessions. So, one of those sessions you can throw away, so to speak, because, when they have 4 qualifying sessions, Friday, the early session, usually is the one where you find your footing, you go down there, go A to B, and then in the cooler conditions, people try to knock it out the park a little bit, see if they can push the envelope and put up a nice little number on the scoreboard and hopefully snag number one qualifier. So I agree with you on that. He says, hot take, I absolutely despise qualifying points in the NHRA. You should not be able to overtake someone off qualifying alone. It's tough. It's tough to, that one is tough for me to navigate. Because then how would you do it? What would be your suggestion on, or your view on how that would work? Because I guess I don't have much of a problem with it. Because the objective is to try to out-qualify that opponent. And if you are able to do so, then do it. But see, there's my other thing to that. If it comes down to qualifying points for a championship, then that's on the person that loses it, because they didn't lose it in qualifying. They lost it before they ever even got there. There's something that happened that made it that close to where it came down to some qualifying points that someone will win a championship. You lost it 2 races ago. And it just so happens you put yourself in an unfavorable position that if said person gets said qualifying position, your championship hopes are done. He said, you should get nothing. Your reward is to be the number 1 seed. Don't need points for it, especially with how many they give. It's honestly too much. Okay, I can see that. So what you're saying is you show up, you run it like you normally run it anyway, put your numbers on the board, and wherever you lie is wherever you lie, and points begin on Sunday. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? It says, I have more problems with the countdown than I do qualifying points. First round at the WinterNationals is meaningless with the reset at Indy. It really is. That's why I call it the regular season. And that's why I said what I said about Doug Coletta. It's 2 races into the regular season. And at the end of the day, what you want to try to do is be in the hunt. That's all you have to do. You're not trying to go out here, and it's not really that big of a deal if I go into the countdown, the playoffs, number 1. Because we've seen a lot of people come in number 1 and wet the bed in the playoffs and don't have no championship. But they were regular season champs, not postseason champs. So I agree with you. It does become a little bit pointless when you're going to reset anyway, when there is a playoff system. So, and honestly, some teams, I mean, I would be that way. I'm not necessarily concerned. I don't want to be too far back. Let's get that straight. I don't want to be too far back. But if you're in the top 8, and really at this point, top 10 or 12, which I don't like, you really have an opportunity to come from 10 and come way up the ladder. You just got to take care of business. Just think about it. If the 10th position car goes out, qualifies, makes it to semifinals, the one race, makes it to the finals, and maybe he doesn't win the next race, if you're out qualifying and out pacing all those people in front of you and then grabbing those points in qualifying, you can be within a couple races right in striking distance of winning a championship. It's really not that hard with the system that is had. Drag Race and Mayhem says, with the participation countdown, might as well call it preseason. None of what happens now matters. I agree. I don't know why we're still doing this. It doesn't benefit the NHRA, and it doesn't benefit the system. It waters it down, really. Because, I mean, last year, if you were top 10, there were position battles at the bottom that were story-worthy. Those were topics. Those were, headliners to go into the playoffs of who's going to be where in the positioning. And when you give participation trophies, which is a lot wrong with today's world, it waters down the product. Can't really have a strong playoff system and folks really give a crap when, if I show up enough, doesn't matter if I'm in the 10, I could be 12th and still get an opportunity. And at the end of the day, if you're 11 and 12, you're not going to smell a championship anyway. Because you're that far down, you're not that good. You weren't that good that year. It's just that simple. I mean, I don't know any other way to slice it or dice it. Dave says regular season doesn't even matter with this show up and you're in rule. Yep. I don't get it. I don't like it. It's garbage. They need to get rid of it. I thought they would have abolished it by now, but they're still hanging on to it for some strange reason. Drag Race and Mayhem says, if I was a team, I'd do the bare minimum, stage 3 times in qualifying, then turn it on in the countdown. It went from 13. But you know what, though? It's kind of like shooting a free throw in basketball. It's one thing about drag racing. You could go out there and do that for sure. But I guarantee you won't find your legs when it comes time. it just doesn't work that way. If you're not putting in the work in the regular season and you're actually making some kind of passes, he ain't gonna just turn it on. It's not like, I mean, I even say that about playoff ball. Some teams can do it. It doesn't really happen in the repeat fashion all the time. But yeah, there's no way you're gonna go in here and turn on, just show up, get your participation trophy, and then think you're gonna strike from deep. I don't think so. That's a long shot. That's throwing a Hail Mary. And a Hail Mary that I don't think will land. It'll likely be intercepted. He said it's sad that could even happen. It could. It legitimately could happen. But you would need the stars to align. Jesus would have to come back. You'd need a little Holy Spirit, and you might have a shot. I don't see. Even if you made it, I just don't see not having consistent runs, especially in fuel classes, and I'll even say in pro stock too. I don't see that. I don't see it happening. I think you're going to be you are what you are, and you came in 12th, 13th. You'll stay in the bottom and never smell the top of the field. But so far so good. Despite all the things that we've had, so far so good on the season. And again, in a place where we thought was going to go away, we get to come back. And everybody loves this track. There's going to be a lot of good players here. And, I'm excited for the Arizona Nationals. It's going to be fun. I feel bad for the Pro Stock motorcycle crowd. That they have to come out in 1 week. I think that has to be adjusted somehow because it seems like after you have that big layoff and you may have gone in and had big time momentum. I think of some of the smaller teams, the Kelley Clonces, Steve Johnson himself, maybe you might be struggling a little bit. The Ryan Allers, you come in and you have you start to build some momentum at Gainesville, and then you have to park it for 3 weeks before you see the track again. And it's almost like starting all over. And not everybody has money in test dollars to go out and test. So all of that is very difficult. And they don't seem to get their legs until they start having races in succession. With that said, though, I think that category is going to be fun. I think, all the hoopla and all the worry about runaways, I think eventually things will tighten up. I think we forget, Matt went to a Suzuki. He came back to V-Twin, working really hard, and they now have to find that combination and find their footing again with new equipment. So I think in time, everything will be fine. So, it'll be interesting when we start getting in, they start getting into the realm of running succession races. Lonnie says, D, what do you think about the announcement for the top few motorcycles? Their 4-race sponsorship race for Wally's now and a championship. I like it. It's unfortunate if you're not familiar outside of the NHRA. They had Man Cup had an event and they would do a couple races. The finals were here in Valdosta at South Georgia Motorsports Park. And unfortunately, the Nitro bikes, I think the last 2 years, they are no longer there. The NHRA has done a couple exhibitions with them. You've seen Larry Spider-Man McBride come out there. And I like it. I really do. They need a place to race. And these bikes are something else. I had an opportunity first time, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, actually being able to see these things up close. And they're basically funny cars on 2 wheels. It's the most craziest thing that I've ever seen. They sound so loud. They have the pitch is interesting. And then you have those pipes coming out of the back behind the seat. It's something to watch, man. It's a spectacle. And the people in this class are really good riders. Spider-Man has his name, his nickname Spider-Man, because of how he rides the bike. It looks like he's climbing it a lot of times. And at his age, it's just amazing. I've spoken to him and his brother on occasion, and man, two great minds. His brother is fantastic at tuning one of those things. And to see those things go 200 plus on two wheels, I mean, it takes a set of cojones to do that. I don't have it, but they do. And it's fantastic to watch. Lonnie, I'm very happy about it. And I hope that it can expand. I think once people have gotten an opportunity to see them in exhibition and they've gotten a little notoriety. And I think with having this now, giving them an opportunity and a platform to be on, I think it's going to draw more eyes to this class. And then hopefully we can see some expansion, because there's a pretty good bit of those bad boys out there. And, most of those bikes are very, very well run. Drag Racing Mayhem says those guys are definitely crazy. Yes. Yes. It's a ticking time bomb on two wheels. Same thing that can happen in funny car with explosions can happen with those nitro bikes. It's crazy. But yeah, they've got a set. I don't have that. Yes. I love Pro Stock Motorcycle too. It's like I said, it loses its legs when you have to wait this long to see them again. But I think it's a class that's really starting to come around. And you can just see the competitive nature amongst the class. I think you're going to have some surprise bikes this year. That if you looked at the end of last year, they were really starting to come on with 3 or 4 races left in the playoff run. You saw some bikes come around. I think some people are trying to find some horsepower. I think that's why you see Steve Johnson not where he has been over the last couple of years. I think he's finding some horsepower. And like everybody knows, if you're sitting still, you get passed. So that goes for every class. So there's always a need or have to put work in to find more horsepower, because there's always somebody working. I mean, just look at what Vance and Hines is doing. It's all because of the work that they put in at the shop, and it's showing up on the racetrack. Now, what my question is with them is when is Richard's bike gonna, or as Eddie dubs it, Eddie's bike, when is that going to come around as well? Because I think it's getting close. Both of those guys are the same style of rider. I think you could put Richard on Gage's bike and it would do the exact same thing. They're that from the background they come from and the classes they come from in these other divisions of motorcycle racing. They are excellent riders, and they just rinse and repeat because of what they've had to ride earlier in their career. She said, I wish they would run more of a schedule since Pro Stock went to a full schedule this year. Yeah, and I'm not sure. I'll have to ask about that, why they don't run a full schedule. And if they're not gonna run a full schedule, I would like to see them front load that schedule a little bit more. Maybe it's just not feasible based on location of a lot of these bikes to go all the way out to Pomona twice. So maybe not there, but maybe they could run Arizona, but maybe it's not financially feasible. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what that reasoning is and why they don't have more races, but that's something that I will investigate and try to find out it is kind of interesting because, like I said, if you're not going to do that, I don't like them starting the season in Gainesville and then sitting for so long. It's just no one wants to do that. And if you don't have time, if you don't have the money or the time because you work when you're not at the racetrack, you're a full-time employee somewhere, and you don't have the test dollars or the time to bracket out to go testing, you just seem to start over when you go to your next race 3 weeks from your first one. It's, that's tough for anybody. That's tough for anybody. But I think we're going to see a really good class. Obviously, Gage is the front runner and should be looked at as the champion, as the preemptive champion of this year until he shows us that he's not. And they continue to get that bike to go faster and faster. And to your point, Briar, I am happy about the Pro Stock cars running a full schedule. I think before it was because of cost and they were trying to cut cost. But I think them running a full schedule shows that the class is healthy. And as much as there's not this variety of teams out there, and we talk about it just being a KB, Titan, and Elite Motorsports, back and forth, both ownership groups deserves a round of applause and should be praised for what they're doing, because they really have maybe made it affordable for some people to go racing that otherwise likely probably would not be out there if they had to be on their own completely. And they've been able to bring in some talent. We see a lot of young, talented drivers in that class, and they really should be praised for what they're doing there with the class. And it's healthy, and that's important. The only thing I would wish they would do is either get rid of the rev limiter or at least raise it. Because I think if you get rid of the rev limiter, I think you might lose a little bit of parity. That means all your KB and Titan team cars would be probably outrunning everybody. And, your little guys that come in, they don't have the funding to do a lot of R&D. And I think that's why a lot of things have streamlined, because the R&D just got out of hand. Certain guys don't have money, to go out there and not only race a certain amount of races, but also be able to go and test, and they may not have a dyno in the shop. They may not have an engine dyno in the shop. It's just, there's a lot of variables in that. So it takes having this ability, gives more people an opportunity. And I'm okay with that. I really am okay with that. Tonight on the Power Hour, we are going to be talking to Jasmine Salinas. So I encourage you guys to tune in over there at 9 o'clock. She should be on at about 9:05. They had a weird weekend, to say the least. I think it's really difficult to be thrown in to a situation. And then not only was Jasmine placed in the car after Gainesville, it seemed to be kind of abrupt. We don't know really how much or how soon she knew of that particular change. But the circumstances that they were put in, because, Rob Flynn is trying to not only get the car down the racetrack, but he also is trying to get her feet wet too. Maybe you don't go out there and you run try to shoot for a 369, which the track would have never held it. But maybe you don't go 370 right out of the gate. You make a 380 pass or a 383 or 385 pass, just so it's clean. Let her get her feet wet and thought process and all of her procedures down. And once you get the first lap, everything else is golden, right? You kind of settle in, you get the stomach jitters out, and you come out and then you try to step it up again in the next qualifying session. So there's a lot of things going on. And then the short time, the weather, I think all played a role in to the things that happening, losing the throttle cable in E1. So, like I said, big props to those teams this past weekend. They were in a tough predicament. Since we have time, I said I wasn't going to address it, but I am going to address it because at this point, to me, things have gone too far. And I'm sure you guys see the banter that's going on with Cycle Drag and this quest for parity that he says. And I'm okay with that. Some of these allegations and accusations are outlandish, if you ask me. But to put someone's text messages out, that breaks all analyst, reporter, journalist code. That's just something you don't do because that's considered off the record. It's really embarrassing, to throw Steve out there like that when he did you a solid by coming on. I thought his explanation of things was quite clear on your live, but you can't be doing that, bro. I mean, and here's my thing. I've never been a guy about sources and talking about sources when I speak of things. You see guys like Adam Schefter and you see other people on NFL Network talk about sources, and especially about the team that I cover. Yet, folks didn't know half the stuff that was going on that was presented to us when the league year changed over and the hiring process for GM and all these things started to begin. No one knew nothing, but yet all of a sudden now you know that they're going to draft JJ McCarthy. I say that to say this. If these alleged sources have information about alleged Vance and Hines basically holding the NHRA hostage like a mafia boss, and they're doing illegal things, then if they have such information that is supposedly true, then they should be able to come on your live and speak about it, right? Because it's all in the interest of parity in the class. That's your quest, right? Everybody wants parity in the class. And until then, it's a bunch of malarkey. And there's so much evidence out there that points away from that. And if you're going to make those types of claims, you better darn sure better have the evidence to back it up. And then you have to present said evidence. That's real journalism. That's real analyst. What you're doing right now, man, is burning down the house to prove a point. And the point that you're proving, I don't even know what that is. But, that's all I got to say about that. I'm not giving it any more run at all after this. But I had to say that as a journalist, as an analyst, that's below the belt. And I don't appreciate that at all. And I think it's wrong. And if you don't watch it, if you do it trying to clickbait, you're going to clickbait yourself right on out of here. Because there's a lot of people that aren't happy. And like I said, if you've got that evidence and these people that you speak of have all this evidence, then they need to come forth and bring their nuts to the table and start talking. And if they're not going to say nothing, then that says a lot about what they're saying. And then it's a bunch of hogwash and BS. I'm being nice. Anyways, hopefully we'll have Kelly Murphy on in a second. Like I said, they were about 25 minutes out from the shop. So we're still waiting. We're going to hold on until we get them on here. You know, sometimes things like this happen. I think if you guys know what he does outside of the cockpit, he works on Troy Coughlin's Pro Stock car, and he also drives the truck. So he's en route. Just one of those things, right? That's what happens when you do live shows. I would tell you to go check it out. We'll talk later. Yeah, I mean, it is. It is. And I just don't play that. There's just a few things that I don't do. It's all about ball, or it's all about racing, and never going to attack someone's character or talk about them personal or their personal life. I hate when analysts do that with draft picks or even players. You know, it should be about X's and O's and not about their personal life and who they are as a person and their character. I think that's disrespectful, and that just takes it to a whole nother level. And there's a bunch of people out there that make a living on doing stuff like that. The organization I work for, we don't do that. Because as I've said, it's about relationships more than it is about stories. When you have good relationships with team owners, PR people, you know, drivers, their crew people, you'll get your story. It's that easy. It's that easy. And you can still be critical. Yes, you're right. That's exactly what I mean. Drop your nuts on the table if you got something to say. And it's that bad. But yeah, it really is about relationships, and it's important to have those. And you can still be critical. You can still analyze when somebody's doing bad and they're not showing up and it's not happening on the racetrack. You can call them on it. That's fair. When they do good, you praise. And that's fair. And I have no problem if I'm wrong. Hey, we can come on the show and talk about it. That's fine. I have no problem with being wrong. But, man, we're dragging it out here. I'm trying, guys. Trying. Anybody watching the NCAA bracket and playoff deal? There's been some really good games in the NCAA bracket. I encourage people to check out the women's tournament that's coming up. I think it starts April 5th. Man, Caitlin Clark, I'm interested to see what more she's going to do. And when she gets to the NBA, her and who I call Baby Kobe, who was in the three-point contest that she had with Stephen Curry, that's going to be a combo going head-to-head. Going to be one heck of a combo. I agree with you there. I agree with you. There's a lot of it used to be one of these things where you had a lot of big head-to-head players in men's college basketball, but with the new rules and all of that, you kind of lose that. It seems like women's basketball has a lot of big-time players that will be going head-to-head there. And it's going to be interesting to see how all that pans out. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the women's tournament. Lonnie says, you mean there are other sports besides NHRA drag racing on TV? I know. He is all drag racing all the time. And yeah, they are. There are some. There are some other sports that are doing pretty well. By the way, the UFL will be starting this Sunday. I'm looking forward to the team that I look to, and we'll be spending a lot of time covering, of course, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, so I cover a lot of D.C. sports, along with national, of course, and that's the D.C. Defenders. They got to the championship game last time, and I hope they can get past that and be able to cross the threshold and be able to hoist the trophy. I think this is going to be a good league. I like the fact that they did merge with the USFL because I feel like that league, as good as it was going to die. And they kind of needed each other. And I think the teams that they have all those teams will be solid and competitive. And it should be a good show for spring ball. And I really like spring ball because this is something that the NFL has been missing when they lost NFL Europe. They needed a league where guys can develop. And the worst parts of an NFL team right now are offensive line and defensive line and backup quarterback. Usually most teams don't have a backup quarterback that they can go out and win one game with, let alone finish one. So I think all of these things are going to play out here. We'll talk about the kickoff rule in a minute. We'll soon. Kelley is finally here, and we will bring him in here in a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute. And yes, Battlehawks are a good team. So let's roll, ladies and gentlemen. He is finally here off the road. He made his pro stock debut at the Gatornationals. It's my guy, Kelley Murphy. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing fine. You're a busy man.
Yes, we stay busy. That's for sure.
Yeah. You come into the Gatornationals. Racing is not your first rodeo. Tell people what you were driving and drive normally before you stepped into this pro stock car.
So I've got a 69 Mustang, just nothing special. It's a full tube car with a clutch and a Lenco in it. So it's a stick car as well. So I take that out probably 2-3 times a year, depending on how much time we have with our pro schedule. And then we also have what's known as the buggy here at the shop, which is our burnout car, which we use to break in tires. So it's got a 572 crate motor from GM with a clutch and a Liberty in it too. So the rhythm's all pretty well the same. It's just that stuff's not quite as fast as the 500-inch stuff, obviously, but it's similar. They each have their similarities. So
yeah, you really had a good weekend. The first run was really nice. Did you click it off a little bit early?
I did. That was just my fault. No, it's that simple as my fault. I was still kind of getting the rhythm down as far as the shutdown, as far as the proper technique is to throw the chutes, drive into them, shove the clutch in, and then reach up, shut everything off. I was shoving the clutch in, throwing the chutes, and then shutting everything off. So I was still kind of getting the rhythm down there. So the first one, I shut off early. Q2, we heard an engine, and then Q3, we were just pretty soft on setup. But finally there, Q3, we went 209 and change. So that was pretty cool. Then first round, we went 210 and change. So I just kind of had to reverse my order shutting down there on the other end.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I felt bad, though. I was like, why did Erica have to do that, man, like that?
No, it's all right. I knew what I was signing up for. So it's a dog eat dog world. So it's all good. So I wouldn't change a thing.
Now, you had an opportunity to do some testing before and get your license. Could you take us through that process? And what are the procedures when you go get your license? Do you take baby steps, like maybe you go out to 60 feet or you go out to half track and you progress?
Absolutely. So I licensed the Wednesday beforehand in Tulsa, which is kind of our main testing spot for us. It's about 3 hours from the shop here. But yes, it's definitely a progress as you go. So I think they call it like 2 moderate, 2 half, and 2 fulls. So I took 2 to the 330 and shut off, and then 2 to half track, and then 2 to the stripe down there to get a full license, which I didn't have anything beforehand. It's like that fast. So I had to make a full 6, which was nice. So yeah, we did all 6 there in Tulsa. and Erica Richard and signed off. And I overnighted the stuff to California the next day. So we wasted no time to try and get the ball rolling for everything to get entered for Gainesville on time.
That's pretty awesome. So the big question is, I know funding is something that, you're looking for as well.
Absolutely.
But do you have irons in the fire, and how soon is it that you may bring the car back out for another run?
So we're kind of working on some stuff. Me and Woody, or Scott Woodruff, as he's known in the industry, we're working on some stuff. As far as timeline, I'm not real sure. It's been a slow progression. The first outing took a full year to get to come together. I doubt the second outing takes that long. Now that it's kind of, it's known that we're looking for some help. But yeah, I definitely think there's potential to come back out this year, probably later in the year. But nothing for sure. No, but we're trying for sure.
Well, I hope you get that funding. And I will say this, I'll give you a piece of advice. I'm not into all of that stuff, but I'm just saying the Rookie of the Year, just come out enough so you don't have to do the Rookie of the Year this year, and you be able to, maybe you'll have enough funding and you'll come back out next year and you can run for the Rookie of the Year. The space for the Rookie of the Year is very crowded right now.
Yes, it certainly is. It certainly is. I made a debut. Let's see, Sienna made a debut, and she's running a full year, which, good for her. Jasmine Salinas just debuted in Top Fuel, so it's definitely got some heavy hitters. I think I can do it. Like I said, I just need some help, but we're working on it. So slow and steady for sure.
Now, you went back to your normal duties. Could you tell everybody what you do on Troy's car?
Yeah, so I actually I drive one of the rigs. I drive the Skag rig, which is Jag's rig. But I drive that and get it set up and everything, and then after that I move over to the other camp. So I do the back half and transmissions on Troy Coughlin's car, the yellow Jags.com White Castle Camaro. So pretty much like shock changes, 4-link stuff, which is a 2-man job between me and the crew chief, but pack chutes and tires and stuff like that. And then I build all the transmissions pretty much. We change ratios pretty much every run. So I've always got something going between transmission change or gear change or something. So I stay pretty busy.
So, Dave says, Kelley, by my official count, is the 468th driver to qualify in Pro Stock.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that for sure, but I am very proud to be amongst the list. So it's almost a fraternity, you could say. It's a short list of people who have accomplished that. So that's something I'm definitely very proud of.
Indeed. How tough was it this weekend? The weather, track conditions weren't really that great Friday and Saturday. It seemed like there was a lot of chasing of your tail, so to speak, to try to get ready, and then you had to come out, and it seemed like you really were coming out in kind of green in Q1 on Sunday, because the conditions were way different than they were Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, we definitely struggled. I mean, realistically, as a whole, Erica kind of started to pick up there towards the end. She made a good run in third round there, but it seemed like everyone across the board struggled, I think it's safe to say. But yes, the weather definitely took its toll. Let's see, Friday we only got one run, and it was pretty thin from the get-go. Everybody pretty much, I don't want to say complained, but maybe stated that it was pretty loose out there, which for us is we got to have the traction for sure. We got to have glue.
Right.
These cars don't have much downforce to begin with, so when you get out there and your tail starts wagging, it gets pretty sketchy in a hurry. So we were kind of, as far as the yellow car, we made a decent lap. I think we were 8th or 9th after Q1. And then it rained pretty much all day Saturday. It stopped long enough for us to get one more session in, and the track was there, but it was definitely cold, and we struggled to kind of pick up where we left off. Unfortunately, we had a few cars DNQ, which it sucks definitely, but when there's 20, 21 cars on the property, it's part of the game. So, and then Sunday, it was way colder. Not way colder, but it's definitely chillier. The air was way better, so that was coming to us. So it was definitely a tune-up change as far as what we went off of to where we were trying to race. So yeah, it was definitely a way different ball game, but it just that's part of it. You just have to be prepared, really.
Yeah. Looks like Arizona is going to be a heck of a lot better than Pomona was. This track's usually fast.
Oh yeah.
What do you think? What do you think the possibilities are here coming into the Arizona Nationals?
Definitely looking for a fresh start for sure for everybody. It'll be a whole different ball game. And I actually texted Erica today for a little bit. I pointed out that, she'll be in eliminations all 3 runs through pretty much every run. I mean, really, Q1 is the first round of the challenge race from Pomona. And then Q2 is the second round if she makes it, which, I'm sure she will. And then Q3 is the final from Pomona. So there's as far as a crew chief standpoint, upper management will have to be on it from the get-go for sure. But yeah, and trust me, we're happy to be back at Phoenix for sure. There was kind of some talks last year about it closing and this and that and rumors and yada yada, but at least I enjoy going back there. So I've got 1 win there in 19 with Jags, so we're looking to hopefully do it again for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, and I feel sorry for the poor person that has to go up against Erica coming into Sunday, because she's already going to be in race mode from the time she gets there. So good luck with that.
Sure. Yeah, well, she gets 3 runs of a head start, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please get this man some sponsorship. He did an excellent job in Gainesville. And, man, I can't wait to see you back out there on the racetrack. And thanks for taking the trip and jumping on here and talking with us a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you having me. So I'm just trying to, like I told you, I'm kind of new to all this. So I'm just trying to feel it out and do what I can do to try and help myself. So I can't thank you enough. I do appreciate it.
Well, this is the first time. It won't be the last time. I like technical stuff behind the scenes and what you guys do working on the race car. So maybe sometime later on in the season, we can get you back on and we'll talk about what's going on there at Elite.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Just let me know, or Sarah or whoever, and we'll make it happen.
All right, brother. Thank you, Kelley. I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you later.
Later, man. Bye. Kelley Murphy, I'm glad you guys hung around for it. These things happen, and I was willing to hang in there. I've got about 30 minutes to breathe and get back on the next one. But real quick, as we get out of here, and yes, I meant to say, Fred Warner, ladies and gentlemen, the great shot of Kelley Murphy's Pro Stock car and Pro Stock debut at Gainesville. Well, the kicking rule for the NFL, start giving the XFL its credit. There's a lot of things the NFL has taken from the XFL, and no one really wants to talk about that. But it's just facts. They've had the ability to take away a lot of things to put to good use, and this is one of them. Let's be real. The kickoff has become obsolete. The kick returner is obsolete because it's going to go right in the end zone. It's going to be a touchback. It's over. In this here, you create some suspense. These kick returners have an opportunity to return kickoffs now. It becomes a factor in the game again. And it lessens the car crashes that these guys experience on the football field. I like it. The hip drop tackle. Look, I don't like the rule, but I understand the rule. I do not feel like the hip drop tackle is being done to be intentional, to hurt someone. It just happens to be circumstance in place. So if I'm coming downhill as a linebacker and I get juked to the left and I have to reach out over there, well, guess what? When I reach and grab his body and try to bring him down because I don't want to push him forward, I'm naturally going to drop to the ground. because I'm already out of position and I'm trying to bring him down. And that's just part of it. So I just don't understand what else these guys can do in the league defensively. Because, I mean, let's just put flags on them and just play flag football at this point. Because what are they going to do? What can they do? I think this is going to be very hard to judge, very hard to call, because I've seen several variations of this so-called hip drop tackle. Some of them I do get. You grab the guy around the back and you see the guy kind of swing and bring his hip and butt down, and the guy kind of bends back because his foot is stuck in the ground, and guys get hurt that way. But for the most part, I don't see this as an intentional thing. This is not something that people are doing on purpose. Thanks, man. Thanks, cuz. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. So I just think this becomes another thing that is convolute the game. It's going to be confusing. We're going to have bad calls that are going to cost people the game. We'll see, but I don't like it. Referees have hard enough time to get things right, and they can't get the simple things right. Still, we still don't know what a catch is half the time. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Well, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for hanging on this long. We never go this long, but I really wanted to get Kelley in today, and I appreciate you guys hanging on to see that interview. We had a great conversation. Thank you for your participation during this show. It was awesome. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.